If you guys have followed the channel, you know that I enjoy attempting to get platinums in the shortest time possible, aka speedrunning. I first did this with one of my favorite games of all time, Godfather 2, earlier last year, and then with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 a couple months ago. I obviously did both of these runs in one sitting. It took me 9 hours and 13 minutes to get all 42 trophies in Godfather 2, and I still sit as the fastest to do this on PSN profiles. COD Modern Warfare 2019 took 5 hours and 40 minutes to platinum, but the game had 27 trophies, all of which were campaign based, so it wasn't too impressive. But today, I'm taking on an entirely different beast, Fallout 4, my favorite game of all time. In honor of its next-gen release on PS5, I decided it would be a perfect game to attempt to not only go for the platinum, but the 100%. I already have the platinum on the PS4 version and have the 100% on the PC. In total, I have close to 1,000 hours on PC and console combined, so I believe I have the game knowledge and experience to place top 5 on PSN profiles, but it won't be easy. The fastest player to achieve all 85 of Fallout 4's trophies is Lima Bravo Romeo, who did it in 9 hours and 22 minutes, which, first and foremost, I don't believe is humanly possible, and second, there's no chance I can top that. However, second place at 1 day and 3 hours is more reasonable, so I think I'll aim for a top 3 placement, which means I'll be spending the next day or more of my life grinding these trophies. Nonetheless, this is going to be quite a challenge, so sit back, relax, and enjoy, because I know I won't. Here we go. I'm excited for this. Like I said, favorite game ever. The clock will be starting after I acquire the very first trophy, so without further ado, say we get into it. After creating my character and talking to the Vault Tech rep and picking my special abilities, I watched a bomb drop on Boston and headed to Vault 111. Shortly after entering, I was frozen for the next few centuries. After watching my infant son stolen and my husband murdered, it was finally time to start the trophy grind. First thing I did after leaving the cryo chamber was head to the lunchroom to go on the terminal and play the holotape game, which awarded me my first trophy, Future Retro. And there we go. Now there's no turning back. That is the very first trophy of this playthrough. Many more to go, so let's do it. Next, I left the vault and was awarded my second trophy, War Never Changes. War Never Changes, that is the second trophy. Now it was time to start the playthrough. My main goal for this playthrough was to finish the main story with all 3 factions first, and as fast as possible before doing much else. So after leaving the vault, I made my way to Concord to meet what was left of the Minutemen. After killing a few raiders, I found my first magazine and bobblehead. I would need to collect 20 magazines and all bobbleheads for future trophies. After getting some power armor and a minigun, I killed a Deathclaw and returned to the settlers. I welcomed them to Sanctuary Hills, and after talking to Preston Garvey, I got my next trophy, When Freedom Calls. Alright, When Freedom Calls, there's the next one. I'm skipping dialogue, I don't care to talk to Preston. Now, it was time to do all the Minutemen missions, as the faction only featured 4 trophies. After talking to some settlers at Tempines Bluff, I made my way to Corvega Assembly Plant. On the way, I stopped at Drumlin Diner, where I put my charisma points to use and defused a robbery. This allowed me to level up to level 5 and get my next trophy. Born Survivor, there we go. Don't know what that is, but reach level 5. Sounds good. After arriving to the plant, I killed some raiders and ran to the roof, where I picked up another bobblehead. After reporting my success to Preston, he gave me the promotion of Minutemen General, and I was granted the trophy, The First Step, for joining the Minutemen. The first step, there we go. Now, I made my way to Diamond City, where I ran around the bases to get my next trophy, Home Run. First base. Second base. Third base. Home. Home run! After running around the Commonwealth, queuing up missions that would be important in the future, on my way to help the next settlement, I found a location which got me to level 10. This awarded me my next trophy, Commonwealth Citizen. Commonwealth Citizen? I think that's level 10. Level 10. Nice. After killing a couple ghouls and reporting my success to Preston, I got the trophy Community Organizer for becoming an ally with 3 settlements. There we go. Ally with 3 settlements. On my way to my next objective at the castle, I stopped at the combat zone to meet Kate, who would play an important role later in the playthrough. But nonetheless, after using some of my early levels on the perk Pickpocketer, I placed a grenade in the pocket of a raider and got the trophy Prankster's Return. I did it! Prankster's Return. Before attempting to take back the castle, I realized I needed some firepower, so I met Cricket outside of Vault 81 where I bought Spray and Pray, one of the best weapons in the game. Now it was time to take the castle. Even with Spray and Pray, this was still a difficult challenge as after the Mirelurk Queen spawned, she turned invisible, so I was essentially blind, but after finally killing all the Mirelurks, the castle was finally back in the hands of the Minutemen, and I was granted the trophy Taking Independence. Taking Independence at the 2 hour 45 mark, but it's alright. Also, I made sure to pick up any softshell Mirelurk meat I found, as it would be important for a future trophy. Next, after saving up enough materials, I made a power armor display and got the first DLC trophy, Show Off, for displaying a weapon on a weapon rack, armor on an armor rack, and power armor in a power armor display. There we go, Show Off. Shortly after, I went to one of my settlements, where I assigned a settler to a pillory, and got the trophy Time Out. Time Out. After helping out a few more settlements, I returned to the castle, where I could start the mission Old Guns, which would grant me my final Minutemen trophy at its conclusion. After venturing through the basement of the castle and destroying Sarge, I made it to the armory, and built an artillery cannon. After testing it out, the mission was over, and I was granted the final Minutemen trophy, Old Guns. And there we go. Old Guns. After helping Paladin Dance clear out a few ghouls around the police station earlier, I finally met back up with him. After killing some synths and watching Dance nearly burn to death, we got what we needed and returned to the police station, where I joined the Brotherhood of Steel and got the trophy Semper Invicta. There we go. That is the first Brotherhood mission of many. Getting this mission out of the way now would be important for when the Brotherhood actually arrived to Boston. Now it was time to save Nick Valentine, as he would help me find my abducted son. After killing some mobsters, I found the entrance to Vault 114, where Nick was being held hostage by Skinny Malone and his gang. There was also a bobblehead in the room that Nick was being held in, so I picked that up as well. After exiting the vault, I got the trophy Unlikely Valentine for saving Nick. Unlikely Valentine, there we go. On my way back to Diamond City, I encountered a mutant suicider who exploded and killed me after I shot him. This gave me the trophy Touchdown. No, at least I got the trophy though. I met back up with Nick at his office in Diamond City, and we sat down to discuss what happened the day my son was taken. After narrowing down the options, we concluded that a man named Kellogg was the prime suspect. After using Kate to break into Kellogg's house in Diamond City, we relied on Dogmeat to help track Kellogg, using the clues we found. We ended up at Fort Hagen, where there was also a bobblehead, but after getting through some synths, we finally met Kellogg face to face. After defeating Kellogg, we took a part from his brain, which we used to see where my son was. As soon as we left Fort Hagen, the Brotherhood arrived. Immediately after leaving Fort Hagen, I made my way to the police station, where Dance would take me to the Predwin, and I would finally meet the Brotherhood. After getting acclimated with the members of the Brotherhood, Dance would become available as a companion, which awarded me my next trophy, Never Go At It Alone, for recruiting 5 separate companions. Yep, that's 5. After this, I made my way to the old church, where I met the railroad and queued up their first mission for later. Now, Nick and I met up with Piper in Diamond City, who recommended that we go to Good Neighbor to see if we could see Kellogg's memories. This gave me the trophy Reunions. Don't worry. There we go. Reunions. Before heading to Good Neighbor, I realized that I forgot about a simple trophy called Sanctuary, where all I had to do was help the settlers of Sanctuary build defenses and plant food. So I went over and did that quickly before continuing the main story. There we go. Now it was time for one of the worst missions in the game. After talking to Dr. Amari, I entered Kellogg's memories. If you've played this game, you know what I mean when I say this is one of the worst missions, because all you do is start dialogue with each and every character in his memories. It's a very slow-moving mission, but it's required to progress, so it had to be done. Luckily, it wasn't all for nothing, as I got my next trophy Dangerous Minds for completing it. There we go. The worst mission ever. Now that we knew the synths got back and forth from the Institute through teleportation, Dr. Amari recommended that we find Virgil in the Glowing Sea as he was an Institute defector, so before heading into the Glowing Sea I went to Sanctuary to pick up some power armor and made my way to the Glowing Sea. On my way to the Glowing Sea I discovered my 100th location, which gave me the trophy Ranger Corps. I got 100 locations, right? Okay. In the Glowing Sea, I found the cave in which Virgil was hiding in, and he mentioned that I would need a courser chip in order to enter the Institute. But before tracking down the courser, I returned to Sanctuary, where I had been producing steel throughout my playthrough. After the 100th steel ball was produced, I got the trophy Mass Production, which was the final trophy in the Contraptions DLC. There we go, Mass Production. Now it was time to kill the courser. After tracking the signal to Green Tech Genetics, I found the courser at the top and killed him quite easily. This got me the trophy Hunter Hunted. Hunter Hunted, another trophy. Now that I had the chip, I could take it back to Virgil and get the plans to build a teleporter to get into the Institute. But before taking it to Virgil, I decided to get the introductory railroad quest out of the way so that I could progress with them after I got to the Institute. Following the completion of the mission, I got the trophy Tradecraft for joining the railroad. There we go. Tradecraft. Next, I got the plans for the teleporter from Vigil and had to decide what faction I wanted to help me build it. But before progressing further, I decided to start the Brotherhood of Steel missions, as they would be the ones that I would pick later. After killing some mutants at Fort Strong, I returned to the Predwin to inform them about the teleporter. After fetching a biometric scanner from a hospital, I made my way to nearby Vault 88 to start the Vault-Tec Workshop DLC. After talking to the Overseer, I left to Sanctuary to get the trophy Armed and Dangerous for making 50 weapon mods. The easiest way I found to do this is to grab a baseball bat and change its colors, and after dropping the mods on the ground, I repeated that over and over till I had made 50 mods. It was a bit tedious, but it was easier than gathering the proper materials and leveling up for more advanced mods. There it is, Armed and Dangerous. After this, I made my way to a stopped caravan, where I started the Automatron DLC as it would be important for one of the hardest trophies down the line. After killing a few rogue robots, I got Ada as a companion, and got the trophy Mechanical Menace. Mechanical Menace, first quest. Next, I did a railroad side quest to progress with them, as they would also be important towards the end of the game. Now, I finally returned to the Boston airport to build the signal interceptor to make my way to the Institute, where I received the trophy, the molecular level, on my arrival. There we go, the molecular level. Here is where I made 3 separate saves, as I would need to complete the game in 3 different ways in order to get all the trophies. After finding my son, it turns out that he was a synth, and that my actual son was an old man and the leader of the Institute. After talking to Father, who is actually my son, and the rest of the higher-ups, I went to talk to Dr. Lee, who is a former member of the Brotherhood. My task was to convince her to return to the Brotherhood to continue work on a project that would help the Brotherhood in a future war against the Institute. Following this conversation, and after I loaded a holotape in a terminal to scan the network, I completed the mission Institutionalized, which granted me a trophy and another trophy, Unstoppable Wanderer, for reaching level 25. Unstoppable Wanderer. I think that's 25, right? Yep. Institutionalized, complete institutionalized, wow. Now it was time to do some Institute missions, the first being Synth Retention, which involved me finding an escaped synth and returning him to the Institute. After this, I traveled back to the Boston airport, where I met with Dr. Lee and Proctor Ingram to see how Liberty Prime was coming. They then sent me to find some nukes in the Glowing Sea on the mission called Liberty Reprimed. After finding the nukes, I returned to report my success, and now it was almost time to end the game. But first, Elder Maxon requested me to speak to him about a problem. This problem involved Paladin Dance, as it turns out that he was actually a synth. Maxon now wanted me to find Dance, who went rogue, and kill him. I found Dance hiding with a bunch of robots in a random bunker, and since Dance is one of the most overpowered companions, I decided to keep him alive. After leaving the bunker, Maxon was there waiting, and was not happy, but I was able to convince him to keep Dance alive. This granted me the trophy, Blind Betrayal. Blind Betrayal, there it is. Now, the last order of business before ending the first playthrough was to clean up some loose ends, the first being the railroad. So, next I traveled to the railroad and killed everyone, while also reprogramming the robot, Pam. Next, I traveled to Mass Fusion to find the beryllium agitator, which would power up Liberty Prime. Upon my arrival, the Institute was already there looking for the same thing. After killing some synths and robots, I got the agitator, and now it was time to power up Prime and take over the Institute. Typically, you'd follow Prime from the airport to the CIT ruins, but instead of slowly walking alongside Prime, I fast-traveled to the ruins to speed things up. After clearing out the synths on the surface, Prime made a hole underground, and me and the rest of the Brotherhood dropped into the Institute. This gave me the trophy Ad Victoriam. Ad Victoriam. From here, I ran through the Institute, not actually killing many synths and letting everyone else kill them to speed up the ending. After confronting my son for the final time, I unlocked the doors and ran to the Institute's power generator and rigged it to blow. After this, I was teleported and met with my fake son, and of course I didn't leave him, so he joined us on our escape. From here, we teleported to the top of Mass Fusion building to watch the destruction of the Institute. After pressing the red button to destroy the Institute, the main story was over, and I was awarded 2 trophies, Prepared for the Future and the Nuclear Option. There we go, Nuclear Option and Prepared for the Future. Now that the Brotherhood quests were done, it was time to work on the Railroad and the Institute quests. Thankfully, I could advance progress with the Institute and not mess up anything for the Railroad, as the Railroad mission Underground Undercover required me to become an undercover spy in the Institute. After coming into contact with an Institute defector, we made an escape plan, but I had to keep good standing in the Institute in order for the plan to work, and for the Institute to not get too suspicious. After killing a few of the Institute guards and planting some weapons, it was time for the Battle of Bunker Hill, where the Institute, Railroad, and Brotherhood were fighting to find escaped synths. Since I was working with the Institute, I used a recall code to return all the synths back home to the Institute. Following this, I spoke to Father on the surface, where he invited me to a meeting with the rest of the board members. At the meeting, he announced that he was dying and didn't have much time left. Following this meeting, I got the trophy Mankind Redefined. There we go, Mankind Redefined. Now it was time to do the Mass Fusion mission, again, but this time through the perspective of the Institute, with the agitator being used to power up the Institute instead of Liberty Prime. Upon my return to the Institute with the agitator, I put it in the generator and attended another board meeting. Shortly after, I received the trophy Powering Up. There we go, Powering Up. After this meeting, it was finally time to go through with the undercover plan with the Railroad. After meeting up with the defector, he warned me of plans that the Brotherhood were going to wipe out all of the Railroad, so I had to rush back to save them before it was too late. Once I got back, I got the trophy Underground Undercover. There we go, Underground Undercover. Now we gotta defend the Railroad and finish off the Railroad missions. After stopping the Brotherhood attackers, it was time to hit them back, so Tinker Tom and Deacon appointed me to the Boston police station, where we stole a vertibird and flew to the Predwin to blow it up. After running past the Brotherhood guards, I planted charges and rushed back to the vertibird to escape. After getting far enough away, the charges blew, and I returned to Desdemona and received the trophy Rocket's Red Glare for defeating the Brotherhood as a member of the Railroad. This was the final Railroad trophy, and now it was time to complete the game with the Institute. There we go. The final Railroad mission. After reloading a save from earlier, I was tasked with taking out the Railroad once more, and after doing this, I only had a few more missions left in the game's main story. After returning to the Institute, it was time to take down the Brotherhood once and for all. In order to do this, I had to protect synths as they attempted to reprogram Liberty Prime. This section was a bit tough as I didn't have much ammo or heals, so I had to rely on the Minutemen artillery to take down the large amount of Brotherhood enemies. Who would have thought that the Minutemen would have actually come in clutch at some point? After Prime was reprogrammed, the Predwin was destroyed, and it was time to return to the Institute for the final time. After talking to Father on his deathbed, I was granted the trophy Nuclear Family for finishing the Institute questline. And there we are. Nuclear Family, the final trophy in the base game for the story. After 12 hours and 26 minutes, all story trophies were unlocked. Now it was time to work on the rest of the miscellaneous trophies, as well as the collectibles. After reloading an old save, the first order of business was to collect the remaining bobbleheads. There it is. The other bobblehead right here. Here it is. While collecting these bobbleheads, I found a couple magazines, which granted me the trophy Prince Not Dead for reading 20 magazines. Yep, 20. Shortly after, I got the trophy Animal Control for killing 300 creatures. animal control. That must be 300. Yep. Here we go. They're not dolls. It's 10. I think I need 10 more. After collecting my 10th bobblehead, I took a break to get some of the other miscellaneous trophies. The first being Fixer Upper for building 100 items. Fixer Upper. Throughout my playthrough, I had collected a random assortment of animal meat in order to build one of every cage. I also started building every cage once I got the materials, and after 14 hours I finally built the final cage, which gave me the trophy Trapper. There we go, Trapper. That was kind of a tough trophy because you needed so much. A couple minutes later, I headed to another settlement to start an arena fight. This granted me the trophy Instigator. Instigator, there we go. Next, I decided to go for the Harder They Fall trophy. This trophy needed me to kill 5 giant creatures. I had already killed the Mirelurk Queen at the castle and Swan before saving Nick, so I knew I only needed a couple more. So I traveled to the southern part of the map to find the last few giant creatures, and after killing another Mirelurk Queen and a behemoth, I got the trophy. The Harder They Fall. 5 big creatures. After, I went back to collecting the remaining bobbleheads. There it is. Here it is. In the process, I got the trophy Gun for Hire for completing 10 side missions. Gun for Hire. 10 side quests. Nice. Before collecting the last few, I returned to Sanctuary to get the trophy Docile for having 5 tamed animals in a settlement. This trophy was actually a bit tricky as you couldn't have any animals that aren't naturally hostile. After finding this out and much trial and error, I finally tamed 5 creatures and got the trophy. Yes, Docile. There we go. Perfect. Now it was time to get the final bobbleheads. There it is. They're action figures. After picking up the final bobblehead and getting the trophy, their action figures, I finished the Cabot side quest and in the process killed my 300th human, which granted me the trophy Masshole. Masshole? Now it's time to work on the Vault-Tec Workshop DLC. Thankfully, this DLC only contained 3 trophies. After equipping a Vault 88 suit and a Pip-Boy on a Settler, I got the trophy Vault Dweller. There we go. And after clearing out all areas of Vault 88, I got the trophy Better Living Underground. There we go. Better Living Underground. I think that's second to last trophy I need for Vault-Tec DLC. After scrapping most of the items in Vault 88 and taking the wood out of the workshop, I got the trophy Scaver for gathering 1,000 resources for crafting. There we go. Now that I had completed most of the miscellaneous trophies, I decided to go for the Wasteland DIY trophy, which required me to craft 100 items. Since I hadn't crafted much during my playthrough, I had to go back and forth from vendors to buy fertilizer and plastic to create jet. This took a bit, but ultimately I got the trophy. There we go, finally. Wasteland DIY. Been doing that for a while. Next, I went for the most tedious and arguably the hardest trophy, Benevolent Leader. Remember how I said that I was looking for softshell Mirelurk meat earlier? Well, this was why. And this was also the reason I started the Automatron DLC earlier, as it would allow me to craft a robot workbench. Typically, in my older playthroughs, I would send one settler to a settlement and plant a bunch of crops and give them a bunch of water and defenses and whatnot to slowly increase the happiness percentage. But since I needed to get this done as soon as possible, I tried a new tactic. In order to get this trophy quickly, I needed to make 5 cat cages and then craft a robot. For some reason, this would immediately raise the happiness from 40 to 100, and after a few tries, it worked. However, the trophy did not immediately pop, and after 10 minutes or so, it finally did. There we go, 100. It should pop here very soon. After doing some research, I found out that you didn't actually need to complete the Vault-Tec Workshop storyline in order to get the final trophy, and instead, all I had to do was kill the Overseer, and I would then be placed as the Overseer and given the trophy Oversight for becoming the Overseer. And then I am the Overseer now. Now, it was time to unlock one of the most tedious trophies, Mercenary, for completing 50 miscellaneous objectives. Since miscellaneous objectives were kinda rare, I decided that the best plan of attack was to call the Brotherhood of Steel Vertibird 50 times. This was absolutely terrible, and it took about an hour to complete. Definitely not the most efficient, but it worked nonetheless. Mercenary, it's over. Oh, thank God. That was the worst thing ever. Since a majority of the miscellaneous trophies in the base game were complete, I decided that it would be best to finish the Automatron DLC first before diving into Nuka-World or Far Harbor. First thing I had to do was investigate General Atomics. After killing some robots, I picked up a Mechanist drive from the Robo-Brain, and after speaking to Ada and installing a radar beacon on her, it was time to find the second radar beacon. Like the first mission, I picked up the radar beacon after killing a Robo-Brain. Before finding the Mechanist and his lair, we headed to Fort Hagen to find another Robo-Brain named Jezebel, which had another radar beacon. And shortly after arriving to Fort Hagen, I killed a few robots and picked up its mods, which then gave me the trophy Robot Hunter for collecting 10 robot mods. There we go, Robot Hunter. I think that's for 10 mods. After talking to Jezebel and eventually stealing her head, I brought it to my robot workbench and built it a new body. After getting Jezebel to tell me everything she knew about the Mechanist, the mission was over and I got the trophy Headhunting for completing the mission. Headhunting. One more. Now it was time to defeat the Mechanist once and for all. After adding a MSAT which accesses Mechanist doors and tracks Mechanist robots onto Ada, we traveled to the Mechanist lair near the Boston airport. Surprisingly, this portion of the playthrough was probably the hardest for me, as I didn't have a lot of ammo for any of my weapons and I didn't have many heals left, so I had to rely on Ada, which wasn't ideal given her upgrades. After making it through the first few areas of the lair, it was time for the boss fight, which was extremely difficult. After dying quite a lot and having no ammo or heals, my saving grace was actually a level up. If you didn't know, after you level up in Fallout 4, you regen your entire health. So once my health was regened, I had enough to beat the final few robots. This was not fun at all, and luckily I was able to hide toward the end of the fight. But after the last few robots died, I found the identity of the Mechanist and the story was over, and I was granted the trophy, Restoring Order. There we go. Now, the last trophy for the DLC required me to build 10 robot mods, so I returned to the robot workshop and added 10 mods on Ada to get the trophy. There we go. The most toys, and that is it for the Automatron DLC there. Now it's time for the first big DLC of the game, Far Harbor. This DLC starts out with Nick Valentine and I receiving a message from a family named the Nakanos, who reported their daughter missing. After traveling to their house, we find clues that lead us to believe that she's traveled up the coast on a boat to a synth refugee. After finding this information and notifying the family, they let us use the boat, and Nick and I travel after her. Just before docking the boat, I was granted the trophy Far From Home. Far From Home? First trophy of the Far Harbor DLC. After meeting the leaders of the Harbormen, they get attacked by the new creatures of Far Harbor. After helping defend the harbor, I found the first of 5 magazines and cooked one of the new recipes to get the trophy Just Add Saltwater. There we go, just add saltwater. Next, I followed a man named Longfellow, who showed me the way to Arcadia, the synth refugee. After we arrived, I met Dima, the leader of Arcadia, who was also the supposed brother of Nick, and then I met Kasumi, the girl we were looking for. I also picked up the second magazine. After talking to Kasumi, I agreed to her plan to eavesdrop on the leaders of Arcadia to find out what actually happens here. Upon the conclusion of the meeting, I was granted the trophy Where You Belong for finishing the quest. Where You Belong, second trophy of the main story of Far Harbor. Before continuing with the main quest, I explored the rest of the island to find the remaining magazines. After finding the last 3, I was granted the trophy The Islander's Almanac. 5. Let's go. Another trophy down. Shortly after this, I discovered my 20th Far Harbor location, which also gave me a trophy called the New England Vacationer. There we go, 20 locations found. Next, I attempted to unlock 3 Far Harbor workshops, but in order to do this, I had to complete some side missions, so that's exactly what I did. After completing these side quests, I was finally able to access my 3rd workshop and earn the trophy Push Back the Fog. Push Back the Fog. Now, it was time to complete the main quest. My next objective was to access a terminal with Dima's memories on it, but in order to do that, I had to first join the Children of Adam, as the terminal was in their settlement. After becoming a member, I made my way to the terminal, and if you've played this DLC, you know exactly what comes next. By far the worst quest in the entire game. After accessing the terminal, I had to play this minigame arcadey puzzle type thing, which would allow me to access Dima's memories. So essentially Additionally, I had to guide and protect bugs across this little map to access these memories. And when I say this part was bad, it was bad. It was super boring and extremely tedious. After learning about Dima's memories, I was given a few options that would change the course of Far Harbor. Throughout the map, there were many things that were hidden, such as bodies and tools to launch a nuke that would have the potential to destroy the island. After uncovering Dima's secret medical factory during the quest Best Left Forgotten, I found out that the leader of the Harbormen is actually a synth, and was previously killed by Dima. After finding out this information, I confronted Dima, which gave me the trophy, The Way Life Should Be. The way life should be. After talking to Dima, we agreed that the best plan was to make peace between all factions of Far Harbor. This was also the best option for me, as by doing this would allow me to unlock the second to last main quest trophy of the DLC, called Cleansing the Land. So, after convincing the children of Adam's High Confessor to run away, peace was restored and I unlocked the trophy. And there we go, Cleansing the Land, the second to last story trophy. Now, after convincing Kasumi to return home to her family, I received the final main quest trophy called Close to Home. Close to home. Now, the final Far Harbor trophy that remained was called Hooked, which required me to kill 30 Far Harbor sea creatures. I remember when I went for this trophy on PC, I had a lot of trouble, as the sea creatures are sometimes hard to find, but they are also extremely tough to kill. Knowing this, I traveled to the Predwin to buy a laser Gatling gun, which would hopefully help kill the 30 creatures more easily. After patrolling the island for 35 minutes or so, I was able to get the trophy quite easily. There we go, Hooked. 30. That's it for Far Harbor. That was annoying. Probably one of my least favorite trophies in Fallout 4. Now, all that was left was 4 miscellaneous trophies in the base game and the Nuka-World DLC trophies. Before venturing to Nuka-World, I wanted to make sure that the base game trophies were taken care of, so I went around the map to find any and all lock terminals and lock-picking opportunities. After going to many locations and picking many locks and hacking many terminals, I picked my 50th lock and hacked my 50th terminal. There it is. There it is. Thank God. Now that I got those two things out of the way, it was time to get started with Nuka-World. After hopping aboard a train and rushing through a raider gauntlet, I was put up against the overboss of Nuka-World in an arena. Before taking on the overboss, I was given some advice by Gage to zap the overboss with water, as his power armor was electrified. After zapping him with water, I was able to shoot him with regular weapons, which would then hurt him. After zapping him a few times, I was able to take him down and become the new overboss. Doing this gave me the trophy, Taken for a Ride. Taken for a ride? First of, I think, 4 story missions. Now, it was time for the most tedious part of the playthrough. Instead of continuing with the main Nuka-World quest, I had to finish the 2 collectible trophies, which were to collect all 5 issues of the Scav magazine and create 20 different flavors of Nuka-Cola. The 5 magazines wouldn't be a problem, but in order to make the 20 flavors, I had to find the 20 recipes. So, for the next 3 hours or so, I ran around Nuka-World, picking up each and every magazine and recipe. Perfect. Here it is. Perfect. Here it is. One more. Here it is. There we go. But it could have been worse. Knowing that I would have to do this eventually, I had actually been saving and collecting every single kind of Nuka-Cola that I found during my base game and main story playthrough. So, I already had a stockpile. Now, all I had to do once I found all the recipes was to buy the remaining ingredients and flavors that I needed. And after doing that, I received the trophy, Beveragier. There it is. Beveragier. Well, in the process of finding all the recipes and magazines, I continued to kill raiders and lockpick. So every time I did this, I had Kate as my companion, and as time went on, her and my relationship would begin to increase. And all of a sudden, after killing an enemy, Kate idolized me, which means that I had reached the maximum relationship level with her. After talking to her, I received the second to last base game trophy, Lovable. Finally. I don't know why it took so long. After returning to Nuka-World, I went for the next tedious trophy, which was to complete 12 quests for any of the raider gangs. These missions would essentially send me back and forth from the Commonwealth to Nuka-World and require me to either clear out a bunch of enemies or put a shock collar around them. Yes, very exciting stuff. But after doing this 12 times, I returned to the final boss and got the trophy, Raiding for a Living. There we go. All the side missions are done. Now it was time to continue with the main story. The reason I didn't progress earlier was because of this next trophy, called All Sugared Up, which required me to defeat 40 Nuka-World creatures while under the effect of any Nuka-World flavor. So, if I had cleared out the parks earlier, I wouldn't have many creatures to fight while going for this trophy. So, with all my mixes equipped, it was time to clear out the parks. After killing a few gator claws, I got the trophy All Sugared Up. This was much easier than I remembered on PC, and if you're going for this trophy, definitely get beverage gear before clearing out the parks. Yes, All Sugared Up. That was, not actually that bad. After clearing up all the parks and assigning them to different gangs, I got the trophy, the Grand Tour. The Grand Tour. After the Grand Tour, it was time to make the raiders' presence known in the wasteland. Now, I had to pick one of my settlements for the raiders to take over, and after doing this and making other settlements pay me, I established 2 more raider settlements, which granted me the trophy Home Sweet Home. Home Sweet Home, there we go. Now, in order to get the next trophy, I had to do this 5 more times. On my 8th and final raider camp establishment, I got a triple trophy pop. One for leveling up to level 50, the final trophy of the base game, the platinum trophy of course, and then hostile takeover for establishing 8 raider camps. There we go, Legends of the Waste, that's level 50. And the platinum and hostile takeover. Wow. That was really crazy. That's good to see. Platinum in 35 hours. Again, I have not stopped, so I'm currently dying, but that's alright. Now, only 2 remained. First, I completed the main story of Nuka-World, which just required me to kill the leaders of the gang I treated the poorest. After doing this, I restored power to the park and the main storyline was over, and I was granted the trophy Power Play. There it is, Power Play. Now, it was time for the final trophy, Eyes on the Prize. This was by far the most tedious trophy in the entire game, and by far one of the most tedious trophies I have ever gone for. Since I had already earned this trophy on PC, I knew what I was going up against, but this was much worse than I remember. Eyes on the Prize required me to redeem 100,000 tickets at the Nuka-Cade. On paper, it doesn't sound so bad, but after I started, I knew this was going to be a while. So, for the next 3 hours or so, I sat playing the same arcade games over and over and over. The first was your typical arcade shooter where you had to shoot all of the targets as they moved past. The only bad part was this would take about 1 to 2 minutes to complete, and you'd only receive 700 to 1,000 tickets after, which meant I would have to do this 100 plus times. And this was not fun, as you can tell by the look on my face, but also this was the first time during the playthrough that I actually felt tired, which was also not a good thing given that this was the final trophy I had to get. So, after doing this for the first hour and a half and quickly running out of ammo, I decided to try the basketball game. This ultimately turned out to be my saving grace as I was able to spam crouch the ball up and down through the hoop to rack up points. This game was much shorter and I rarely finished with less than 1,000 tickets after playing. The only downside was that I would have to spam the right stick for the next hour or so, which didn't feel great on my thumb. Nonetheless, after 3 hours of monotonously playing these stupid arcade games, I collected my 100,000th ticket and redeemed them to get the final trophy, Eyes on the Prize. There it is, Eyes on the Prize. The final trophy in the 100%. After 38 hours of non-stop playing, it was finally over. All 85 trophies collected in less than 2 days. While I wasn't going to get all 85 in 27 hours, 38 put me in 3rd place on the leaderboard, so I guess it was worth it at the end of the day. While this was at times tedious and annoying, I still enjoyed the game and I see why it's one of my favorite games of all time. Since the Fallout games are some of my favorite, I plan on platinuming the rest. I already have the Fallout 3 Platinum, but I could go for all the trophies on Xbox, and I've already 100% in New Vegas on PC, so be on the lookout for a Fallout New Vegas, 76, and even Shelter Platinum video here in the near future. So, hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did, and if you did, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys want to watch my other speedrunning videos, here they are on the screen.